What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back for part 2, y'all, of our UConn versus NC State preview and prediction here, y'all. Oh, I guess not really prediction, more just preview here. We'll kind of get into it here.
We'll do a prediction at the end.
Yeah, we'll do a small prediction for sure, but definitely it's I guess maybe more score predictions maybe because like last in our we did like a season prediction and kind of like did we win or did we lose? Maybe this is more kind of a score prediction. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, though, make sure to go and do that first and foremost here as we started this conversation here with Mike Solomon and Pete here. Again, make sure then after you check out part 1, come right back here for part 2 as we continue this conversation. So Pete, I wanted to kind of ask you first and foremost, obviously, the basketball history for UConn is undeniable. Men's, women's, you name it, it's undeniable. You look at, what football has done, the struggle that's been there for a while. Because one of the first things that kind of comes to my head is, there's definitely a lot of excitement for sure, which is great. But how much do you think that UConn, the leadership and then the UConn fans are really, looking to really commit themselves to supporting football? Because I think for me sitting here, I'm saying you got two, blue bloods, in men's basketball, women's basketball. So I'm sure they're not really going to take anything away from those two beasts. They're going to feed that as much as they can, but I have a feeling that you're going to have to ask people to add on top of it to really add for football to try and build that up as well. So kind of talk to me in terms of what's the mental status for, football compared to, the two beasts that you guys have currently in the UConn athletic program.
Well, I want to point out, first of all, and Mike can probably attest to this, in even basketball's history, it was a tough sled and tough beginning. It had to be sold by both coaches. And what cured it the most was just winning big games. I think, honestly, the fan base also has to know our story a little bit more. I think the one thing that benefited us from this most recent run of conference realignment is, I think, in me doing research, Mike doing research, and other, independent journalists, fans, what have you, looking into the real numbers of what we're really about as a program, we found our identity. We've had a lot of turmoil with our leadership over the past, decade, but I know from my own research from 2009 to 2022, we've produced more draft picks than about 60% of the Big 12 when we're comparing it in that 15-year span, and we produced more first or third round draft picks than 75% of that league, incoming and outgoing. So, despite all of that, all the narrative that's being pushed, we've pushed out at least very good player development. Which attests to the facilities we have. We hear a lot of narratives about we don't have facilities. NFL scouts come to us all the time and tell us that only Oregon has better facilities than we do in the country. They're telling us that. So I know the narrative of, different reporters says different. Quite frankly, they don't look into the numbers that we have. And also, comparatively speaking, our program compared to other men's sports, some of our pros, some of our guys that have 2+ years, they established pro careers at a higher percentage than the men's basketball team over certain periods of time. So it's not like we can't produce players and get them out to the pros. We just have had to have stability in leadership, stability in a direction. And most of all, the fans have to know that. Unfortunately, a lot of the local beat writers are also graduates of other colleges. So they're not invested in, digging into the history of our program. The history of football in general in our state is very rich. Some of the beginnings of the sport itself revolve around Connecticut. So it's getting that story out to the fan base, and having that identity known, and then just winning big games. This is probably a pipe dream, but if we go down to Tennessee and beat them, it's a wrap. I'm just saying.
Dude,
right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no way better.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Yeah, no way better to get it going, right? When you beat a major program,
Right?
That has not only SEC title hopes but national title hopes.
Right.
Yeah. No, good. That's definitely true. So I guess
Yeah.
kind of along the lines of that, how much of it advantage or disadvantage is it they're playing in Hartford? Because I know UConn's campuses and stores, but and I know they're not very far apart, but to me, I look at it kind of like, and again, this is a guy from the outside looking in. To me, it looks like a pit situation where you have campus and they go play in an NFL stadium. Same with Miami. They're not
UCLA,
playing
right?
UCLA. Yeah, exactly.
Here's how I look at it. In terms of exposure, name the last 6-win team that got as much exposure as we did last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Who else is a 6-win team is going to get on? Is going to be a leading story on all the highlight shows in ESPN, CBS Sports Network. And the reason is this: those two entities, CBS, particularly ESPN, they're in Connecticut, or they have employers or employees that travel into New York from Fairfield. When we get going and we have little human interest stories or little things like when we win and beat Liberty, their kids are talking about it. They're bringing it into the home of those producers and everything. It's unlike any other part of the country. And that's why we're starting to get whispers into exposure, despite just only winning 6 games. That's the same dynamic that happened with the women's program. They were winning. The kids were talking about it, bringing it home to the homes of producers of these major sports broadcasting programs. Before you know it, they're the darlings of the nation. So that's the unique dynamic I think Connecticut brings in terms of exposure that I don't think any other school really has.
That's a great point.
Right in between one of the two largest media markets in Boston and New York as well. So when it starts to hit these national media centers, it just expands and it can explode. It happened. The same thing happened with the men's basketball program. I mean, we got exposure and we're a brand now.
Yeah, I tell you, if UConn football figures it out, you're going to the ACC or Big Ten, big whatever the heck they're calling it these days, because you're right. What you bring in women's basketball and men's basketball, if you can get football on board, I mean, you can go write your own check. I mean, you can just put as many zeros as you want. You'll have suitors.
Again,
we have an interesting. Go ahead, Pete.
It's about getting our brand out. It's about getting our brand out and getting our story out as a football program. I think a lot of the stories that have been written about us in the media, a lot of it's political leverage. It's fighting for money because we got the goods. I mean, no one can use the excuse that we're a bad or a garbage program when we're producing the players we're producing.
Sure,
it's not total garbage. I mean, even at a rate that's in certain areas of time is more successful than the men's basketball program. You can't use that argument against us.
Sure.
So go ahead, Mike.
One of the interesting dynamics just of the University of Connecticut generally is we're really a coach's school. Like when you think of UNC, I mean, and Duke, they're destination locations for a lot of players. UConn's been a coach's school. We've had a Hall of Famer in Jim Calhoun, a Hall of Famer in Gino Auriemma. We now have Jim Mora, who is an NFL great coach. I mean, he's won playoff games in the NFL. He's been a top 10 at UCLA coach there. We have a Hall of Fame baseball coach in Jim Penders, who gets us to regionals and super regionals pretty regularly over the last 10 years. So the mistake they made with football is we had badly, as Pete has already noted, we had some bad leadership athletically. We had some bad leadership at the top, and they didn't bring in the right people for football. But Pete is right. Our facilities are amongst the top 5% in all of football, as good as Alabama, as good as Auburn and Tennessee. And I think if you wanted to, you could probably go to UConn.com and just get a video tour of the entire facility. It's phenomenal. Our basketball facilities are as good as they come too.
No, there's some good ones. I did watch your videos on YouTube, and I mean, your football locker room was nice, and there's no doubt that you're putting money into the program. Now you just got to go put it out on the field.
Correct.
What people don't know about our facility is that weight room was custom designed by our old strength coach, Jerry Martin, probably one of the best of all time. He is responsible for building the building blocks of all the athletic programs, successfully. But he designed the weight system itself. He told me he tried to get it patented. So, what we had was years ahead of everybody else, and still some programs are still trying to catch up because of his vision in the building and the program and his input as well. So
I love it.
So speaking of beasts, I'll throw it out there with Jackson Mitchell, your linebacker. You were talking earlier about NFL pro draft picks, and this is a guy by all accounts he's gonna be one of those guys that's called, his name's called next year. Just kind of give me your thoughts on, Pete, with you being a defensive guy and the what we need to look for, because he was pretty active last year in the game against State, but just kind of give me your thoughts on his season, the potential for his season this year.
This might sound outrageous, but I think he's a poor man's Luke Kuechly.
Ooh, wow.
He's that cerebral.
Do you really want to give a Boston College analogy, though?
I'm thinking about Luke Kuechly in terms of the Carolina Panthers.
I got you, brother. I got you. I'm gonna bust your chops a little bit.
But yeah, I've been that impressed with him, and
Sure.
people don't realize also he did it with one hand last year. He had a broken wrist or a surgically repaired wrist that he had to cast it up most of the year. So I'm eager to see what he does with two healthy hands.
Yeah.
He's a baller. It's just drop the mic and just walk away. That's what he is. And they got linemen in there to protect him. I'm eager to see what he does after a year of being in this defense that even Jim Mora said that they're trying to find their niche and their identity during the first 5 games, switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3 because he felt the personnel matched that scheme better. So yeah, it's going to be. Jackson's a baller. Eric Haynes, our defensive end, he's a baller. 6'6", 270. He's going to be interesting to watch. And I think some of our secondary guys are very underrated in terms of what they bring to the total package. A lot of guys got hurt, but a lot of guys got exposure and playing experience, and they're all coming back with some key transfers that are coming in from the Pac-12. So I'm going to be interesting to watch what unfolds on defense.
Yeah. How our secondary guys will be key to a lot of how successful we are this year, because they have been kind of hardened through the fire because they were thrown into some tough situations last year. So we'll see. I mean, in some ways, it's a lot like North Carolina State, where you have a bunch of new guys kind of stepping in after losing some of your linebackers. So you got some new guys stepping in, right?
Yeah. Well,
and go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say the one thing that, when I was looking through last year, and again, every year's new, but you guys held 5 opponents to 14 points or less. I mean, I don't care what league you're playing in, that's efficient. And, when you're only giving up 14 points a game, you're giving your offense and your team as a whole a chance to win ball games.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they found their understanding of the defense and what Coach Mora and the other defensive coaches wanted to do in terms of putting them in position. I think a lot of the early touchdowns, especially in the game against Syracuse and even against you guys, it wasn't that they weren't in position. They weren't, the timeless might have been a little bit different, a little bit off, or just little technical things that, at that level would result in explosive plays. And I think, I think they're going to shore that up a lot this year, having gone through that kind of fire. I don't think this team's afraid of anyone in the country at all, having gone through what they've gone through last year. And they're very motivated to make a point of, going out and showing to themselves, what kind of team they are.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So let me ask you this, P, and just to kind of start moving into kind of the keys of the game. Um, you know, obviously, you guys had mentioned, about, our, the linebacking core, or, the linebacking core and defense in general, tough defense overall. What are some of the things, like, when, you and Mike look at NC State, what are some of the things that you say, like, wow, we need to watch out for that? Like kind of moving into kind of the keys. Go ahead.
Robert Nye and Brandon Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Wait, Brandon Anderson?
He meant Brendan
You mean
Armstrong.
Brandon Armstrong?
Brandon Armstrong. I'm sorry, Brandon.
No, it's all
Armstrong.
good.
You're
My
good.
bad.
Yeah.
Brandon Armstrong.
We got a couple of your names wrong too on your team, so we get it.
The transfer from Virginia, right?
Yeah.
You got it.
I mean, those two worked really well together at Virginia, and I saw what Anai did at Syracuse after just 1 year, and he's a good coordinator. Thankfully, we got a pro mind and another pro mind in Joe Pagano, Coach Pagano, who recently hired as a defensive consultant, also from the NFL.
Oh, for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah,
their old head coach.
So
Joe Pagano.
That's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't have any doubt in terms of Coach Moore getting players in position. It's just a matter of our guys executing. And again, I think the focus is there, unlike last year. I don't think they're going to be searching where to go. I think these guys on defense, they're going to be ready to line up, get where they need to go, and try to make plays. I sense a very high, motivational factor with these guys and have high focus. And it's going to be interesting to see, especially on our home turf, what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I have a question.
go
ahead.
Go for it, Mike, please.
I was going to say a question for you. So you lost Dre Thomas, Isaiah Moore, big linebackers, big pieces of the defense. What's behind that? So how do you follow that up, and are you able to get the chemistry back in your defense? Obviously, you have real P5 ACC level players, big solid guys, but on the linebacking core particularly, is that a concern to you?
I'll tell you this right now, that Peyton Wilson is a guy that if you'd asked me back in 2020, is he going to be here for another year? I'd say no, he's going to go, because he had all these injury issues. He's super duper talented, can be a great linebacker. He has the size, he has the speed and the IQ to play in the NFL. So I think he's going to go. So the fact that we are sitting here in 2023 and I'm telling you that Peyton Wilson is going to play linebacker for us, NC State,
thing, right?
Is a beautiful thing, and that is a huge piece to build around. But also, secondly, in the fact that two guys that come to mind immediately in Devon Betty and Jordan Poole, being linebackers that have experience. And Jalen Scott.
Poole. Yeah, it's all good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Jalen Scott. Who were guys that back in 2021 played. I know against Boston College, actually. I think it was one of those two guys that came up with a huge pass breakup in the end zone to take a touchdown away. So I mean, they've played in some big moments and easily could have transferred out, but the fact that they've stuck around says a lot. I mean, because that's, and that's why I respect a lot of what you guys are saying about the culture, and you see it as well, and the fact that we feel very strongly about culture as well. And I think that in today's day and age with NIL, as I know you could talk all too much about, loyalty is, it's not a thing anymore. Like, loyalty is few and far between these days. So to hear the great culture which it seems like Jim Moore is building within UConn is awesome to hear, and we definitely feel very strongly that from a culture perspective we feel excited about it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback a little bit. Both Scott and Betty played extensively in 21 when both Peyton Wilson and Isaiah Moore were out with injuries, playing basically a half a season each. So these are guys that are backfilling roles of key guys, but they have playing experience, and significant playing experience. Yeah.
And they have the leader. They have that guy.
Correct. So yeah, to answer long answer, I don't see any drop off. I would even challenge that we're actually going to be better at linebacker, just because overall team speed. As great as Isaiah Moore and Drake Thomas were, they don't have the speed of Betty and Scott.
I want to know, is Josh Harris coming back in those tackles?
No, he's at Ole Miss.
Transferred to Ole Miss.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look real disappointed there, Pete.
Well, we had a pretty damn good center who's in the Chicago Bears camp right now, and he put him on roller skates a couple times. I'm
Gotcha.
just gonna be quite frank.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Pete and I were talking last night, and he was telling me, he said, I looked at film, and they had some big dudes who were making major inroads and moving the piles.
Well, I mean, and luckily enough too, I mean, for us, I think the loss of Josh Harris might not be more of, NIL might have something to do with it, especially since he has a
Small
a
child.
baby,
Yeah.
a small child, so which could definitely make a difference. But I mean, also, I mean, like we have, I mean, a guy like CJ Clark, who's a guy that, I mean, has been a multi-year, fifth year, starter now, and has just had injuries that have just killed him. But I mean, I think he's looking to make a statement, being in his last year. So, hopefully, I mean, again, I mean, like from my side, because I mean, I mean, Pete and Mike, I love you guys, but obviously, I would love it if CJ Clark did the exact same thing and put the center on roller skates come August 31st. But yeah, no, Josh Harris is not with us anymore. So,
I have a
go ahead.
second philosophical question for you.
Oh,
So you have
what you got?
a guy like Doran who's pretty conservative. As football coaches go, I put him on the conservative end of the scale. And you're bringing
Sure.
in Anay, who
Anai.
excuse me, who
You're good.
pushes the envelope. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot more willing to take risks. Seemingly some counter programming going on here, that they're going to approach the game sort of differently. Do you sense that's an issue, or is that just a beautiful chemistry maybe that is starting to bloom?
I would say that as much as Coach Dorn's been here entering his 11th year now, is that right? 11?
Yeah.
He is not one to just sit back on his laurels and just go with status quo. He's willing to change up his offensive and defensive coordinators, his coaches as a whole. He's willing to adapt to the game. Have him being there as long as he has, he knows what it takes to win ball games, especially in the ACC. And you've seen him kind of slowly progressing to this. Bringing in Tony Gibson a few years ago when he was basically thrown out of West Virginia. That's paid huge dividends. And I honestly think that we're going to get the same kind of thing with Anai. And just because, a lot of the coaches have coached with Coach Anai in the past, and then obviously Dorn coaching against Anai. He's come out and said that, hey, I'm tired of getting my brains beaten in by this guy. I want him on my squad. So I think, kind of with all that being said, it just seemed like a no-brainer match made in heaven. But again, proof will be in the pudding here in just over 7 days.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap this thing up here, so I wanted to kind of, if you don't mind, Pete and Mike, I wanted to kind of give each of you guys an opportunity just for our fans. We'd love to know if State beats UConn, it's going to be because of what? And Pete, I'll let you go first here. Like if State beats UConn, it's going to be because this took place or this happened.
It's going to be because defensively they're able to get penetration, stop our run, put pressure up the middle on Fagnano, and lock down receivers, or receivers not being able to get off of coverage and find open seams and get completions. We have to be multiple on offense in order to move the ball. And I was there live at that game last year. And
oh, really cool.
Well, maybe not so much.
I'd like
for
to
him.
see more from the offense for sure. I think defensively, one thing I did notice is that when we pressured the offense last year, we got through. And against Anai, against Syracuse, when our guys were in the spots, we did okay. We did pretty well. We stopped their run game, and they had a pretty good tailback last year. So it's just being about, being in our spots, being disciplined on defense and making tackles, not giving up big plays, obviously, just being basically fundamentally sound. And offensively, being able to move the rock, move the ball, and hopefully the new skilled players that we have, go out and make plays.
Yeah. Mike, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say line of scrimmage. If you dominate on the defensive line of scrimmage, I think we're in trouble. But I would also say, your wide receivers versus our secondary. And,
Mm-hmm.
you got a guy with a great arm, okay? And if we're not able to stop him and his array of different arsenal targets, I think we're in real trouble. But if we can stop,
give Jim time.
Stop the pass. I'm sorry, I'm bumbling, but
you're good.
If we can stop the passing attack, okay, and keep the game close, I think we got a shot. Otherwise, it could be ugly.
I'm worried about Armstrong's legs.
And see, that's a whole new thing for us too.
We got to contain him. Last year we had a guy that was pretty good hybrid linebacker, Ian Swenson, who was a former safety, who fulfilled that role and, kind of ball hawked a lot of, scrambling quarterbacks for us last year. That's the one thing I would say there's a question mark on our defense. Who's going to accompany Jackson on the second level? We got some transfers in, Noah Plack from Delaware, Eric Gilliard from Kansas, some pretty good guys that were pretty good ball players. I mean, Noah was a safety at Delaware last year, so he might be comfortable in that role as well. So it'd be interesting to see.
We have some pretty good tight ends too. It'd be interesting. We had a kid, Lou Henson, out of Michigan. We had a kid last year, Justin Jolly, who made freshman All-American team. We have some good. I think there'll be a lot of mixing it up. I don't mean to give away strategy because I have no clue, but I do think that you'll see a mix, and that's, I think, Charlton's kind of call to action a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So now kind of to the good part. So the score predictions. So, being that Mike and Pete, you guys are our guests, I want to kind of give UP an opportunity first. What would you say your score prediction is going to be for this game?
31-28 North Carolina State.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And again, 28 points against us. That's an accomplishment, I would say, for sure. Mike, what you got?
I was going to go UConn 21-17 in a pretty epic upset. It's early in the year, and we've got to look at it that way. I will tell you, I was asked by a columnist online to predict all the scores for the NCAA tournament, and I predict everyone to be more than 13 points. And at one point, he said, "I think you're really pushing it." I kind of got lucky, so I'm hopeful that I can be lucky now.
Well, and I meant to give this before you guys gave their predictions, but so kind of like right now, Vegas has State favored by 15, over under at 48. So right now they're predicting like 30
Math's
to
hard.
30-15, 30 to 15 score right now, give or take.
That's not
which obviously, I mean, I think, I mean, that's kind of what I'm kind of thinking about the spread, like maybe like a 17-point win right now. Like I don't see a beat the brakes. I see a little bit of a slow start, but my prediction is that once we kind of find that crack, that we're able to get through and kind of start to feel our rhythm and go from there. So my prediction is 31-14. That's my prediction. Greg, what you got?
I'm assuming you're taking State.
yeah.
I had 31-17 State, so not
okay.
Not too
We're in
far
the same
off.
ballpark.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
At the end of the first half, what do you think the score is?
Ooh.
I'm gonna go 17-3.
Okay.
State.
17-3.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I will say this: if our fans come out and pack that place, it's going to be a really close game and a possible upset.
So that was my question. Like, are you guys looking at a sellout?
They're pushing for it. They're pushing really hard.
It's getting there.
What do you guys hold? Like 40,000?
Yeah.
40,000.
Yeah.
But that place gets very loud.
Sure.
When it's filled. Robert Griffin III has said it was probably the toughest place he's ever played at when it's been filled.
Interesting.
So.
If the game's 28-24, let's just say, if we manage to make it that close, I don't believe in moral victories, but I think at that point the state might start to say, we got to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
This team's bringing something. So we would love a game where we just compete head to head.
Yeah.
And we're right there with you. And I think that would be really important. So that's why this game, I think,
100%.
might be one of the more important games in our history.
I know the players will be motivated. I kind of, as a big brother, I don't know if I've been blocked by this by saying it, but I kind of remind them of what the time is at, 9:19 at certain points of the day. It's 41-10.
Yeah.
They're not too happy with that. So
sure.
They remember that score.
Yeah.
They don't come out when we say it, but they know that score. They remember that score.
Yeah.
They remember the feeling about it. Every player to a man. You're going to see at least the first couple of quarters. It's not going to be. They're not there to just show up.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I honestly don't see a 75-yard touchdown bomb on the first play of the game like we had last year, right? Like I just don't. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
I guess the one other question I had is, I would assume you guys are going to bring out the national championship basketball team to give them some more love. First game of the season.
I have not heard.
Okay. I was just curious.
I would think they would, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Plus, there's going to be a good crowd. I think there's going to be a real energy to the game. You're a big piece of our season. There's no doubt about it. Much more than Tennessee on the road. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys host Duke later in the season. You go to JMU, which is going to be a tough game for sure. There's a lot of great opportunities on the schedule for UConn, no doubt about it. So it should be an exciting season for sure to see what UConn could do. But Pete, Mike, first of all, thank you both so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it. And unfortunately, we kind of, fortunately, we got so deep depth into football that didn't really have too much time to talk women's basketball, but we're excited for it to host y'all at Reynolds and
maybe
see
we'll
how
have
this
you guys
goes.
back on for that. One.
Yeah, maybe.
I would love it.
Okay,
wouldn't be a bad idea. Love it. But thank you both so much for your time. Really do appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you guys here in a few days, and just celebrate the return of college football heading into 2023. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Hey, let's talk after the game, man.
For sure.
Yeah, it'd be an honor. Absolutely. Well, Wolfpack Nation, if you haven't already, make sure to go and follow Mike and Pete. Their Twitter links are down in the description below, so make sure to go do that. And then for our end, make sure if you haven't already, again, hit that free subscribe button, hit that notification bell, which is free to do, and make sure you don't miss out on any new NC State content, and it really helps support us as well. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you think NC State's going to get that win, hit that like button. Also, too, make sure to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And we'll see y'all then. And go Pack, y'all.
Let's go Pack.